Shortly, we're about to kick off with the first panel group. It's going to be a subject called Cyber Security Leadership Roundtable, led by Dr. Greg Edwards. Dr. Greg Edwards has assembled a great host for this leadership roundtable, who are keen to get going, so forgive me if I'm very brief in my introduction of Dr. Edwards. He's currently our Director Infrastructure Services in the NCI Agency and has a simple but daunting remit: modernize NATO's IT. He has a brilliant career behind him in both the US Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA, and the US military. So he's got enough foundation behind him to support him in what is quite a staggering task. But he's a modest man, so unfortunately you will not find his bio in the program. He's joined this morning by very many nations. It was originally 12, I'm not sure how many there at the moment. And they've all been asked to consider the question, are we focusing enough attention on looking inside our own network enterprises for the threats? Dr. Edwards, we're really looking forward to your panel discussion. Thank you.
Okay, test 1, 2. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to NIAS. This is our third and final day, as Paul was saying. He's doing a fabulous job keeping us all synchronized. What I'd like to do this morning is pay tribute to the nations. And I'm often reminded by our general manager who's sitting down front that that's what this agency is all about, is supporting the nations. We have a representative sample of the nations here this morning. If you're a statistical keeper, we have sufficient number of nations. In fact, if we want to make some pronouncement, there's a sufficient statistical sample size of the nations for us to be able to do that. We will not be making any proclamations, though, or any bold statements. But what we will be doing is hearing a perspective from the nations about cyber security and innovation and collaboration. But they may extend their thoughts a little bit outside of the bounds of that. We have an hour, and we want to give sufficient time to each of the nations to give their perspective, and then we want to give some time to the audience. So I'd ask you to begin to think now, as you hear the perspectives given, about thoughts or questions that you might have and stimulate. But as a beginning, it's probably unfair for me to ask the panel to give their perspective if I don't, as the chair, perhaps offer some thoughts initially. So briefly, what I'd like to introduce is a thought of a perspective from something called the dark web or the deep web. And I'd ask for a show of hands of those who perhaps have heard of the dark web. Okay? And so we're cyber security experts, so we should know about this. I'm going to make an assertion here if I can get my charts going. Ramon? Okay, next. There we go. I'm going to violate one of the rules of presentation by introducing something to you without having a full discussion and without having a conclusion. I'm doing this intentionally. I'm going to talk about this potential threat. I want to introduce it to you as something that perhaps is the next focus area, a next focus area that we in NATO should perhaps take a look at. If you're familiar with the dark net or the deep web, you understand the context of the presentation. Now, we have the internet, and that's tough enough. But we have this space within the internet where there's a lot of activity ongoing. And people have created an underground, if you would, using the available technology of the internet to do good things and perhaps not so good things that are occurring in that space. And so I ask, what do we know? What do we know about this area? We protect our borders. We have strong defenses in place from a cyber perspective. And we spend some time looking inside. Perhaps the sub-theme or title that we put with our overall theme for NIAS is an effort for us to look to the future, and that being a view from within, okay? And that's a little different aspect than the insider threat, but a view from within. And why should we look within, okay? Well, there's 10 disturbing facts that I'm going to play a video for you that will give you an indication as to why we should perhaps look from within and give that area a little bit more attention. So with that, could I have the video, please? And that's the fastest way that I could think to introduce 10 critical points that perhaps, tell us that we should, take a look within, a little introspective focus. Okay. So what I'd like to do now is quickly transition to really the focus of the panel, and that's to ask each of the nations in turn if they'll take a few minutes to just kind of give you a perspective of cybersecurity innovation and collaboration from their national perspective. And in alphabetical order, we'll start with Belgium.
Thanks. Is this working?
It's working.
Okay, it is. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, Greg, for this introduction. I'm happy to be here, by the way. For the first time, I can say that Belgium is taking cybersecurity seriously. We actually created a Cyber Security Center at the level of the Prime Minister. Its director is our famous Cyber Lieutenant Colonel Miguel de Bruikers, who's been appointed director, and he has Fedra Cluner come as a deputy. For the moment, the Cyber Security Center is the director and his deputy, but we're looking to a kind of enlargement in the near future. Dichter. That means that the Belgian cybersecurity at defense has one person left at least, because the agency hired 2 of our best men as well. But we're actually in the procedure of engaging 25 individuals to strengthen our cybersecurity at Belgian defense. And these selection procedures are going on right now, so we're looking forward to quite an enlargement of this section. Are we looking enough towards our internals? I'm not quite sure we actually do that. And I believe there's interest in looking into log files more precisely. I believe one of the workshops was about big data and log file examination. We need to look for anomalies more appropriately in order to detect all these things that may have been going on for years that we weren't aware of. We had a few incidents in the last few years that kind of raised our degree of attention. So with this cybersecurity center and the strengthening of Belgian defense, I believe we're on the right path towards the future. And I would like to leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank you, Dr. Edwards, for the invitation to this exciting panel. My name is Lucie Karlecová, and I work for the National Cyber Security Center of the Czech Republic, which is part of a National Security Authority. When me and my colleagues received your invitation for the panel, and we started to think about this year's NIAS topic, collaboration and innovation, 4 main pieces of the puzzle actually came to our minds, and I'm going to present it to you briefly today. First of all, from our point of view, it is highly important to establish reliable cybersecurity. Cybersecurity which would be responsible for safe civilian critical information infrastructure. Then secondly, a parallel step would be to establish strong cyber defense capabilities. In that order, in other words, the state has to have a reliable, responsive cyber defense, which would be capable of timely reaction to any threats coming from cyberspace. What is critical while speaking about cybersecurity and cyber defense elements is to point out the importance of their close mutual collaboration. Then, once these 2, cybersecurity and cyber defense, are established, the state shall focus on capacity building, which should consist of the following. A, we should identify talented personnel. For that, we have to start searching already at lower levels of education system. Cyber should be taught already at elementary schools so that students establish relations with the cyber environment in early age. And then we should continue at universities and attract young talents from there. Then, of course, technologies. Here, the state-private sector relation is absolutely crucial. State has to cooperate with both academia and private sector. For that reason, we very much welcome the NICP initiative. The collaboration with private sector should include both research and development and, of course, information sharing. However, state should also focus on its own research and development. Indigenous capabilities are required along the cooperation with private sector, and so the state must not behave as a passive recipient of the on-the-shelf solutions. And then finally, processes, which should consist of participation in exercises. In that regard, every state should take advantage of a wide range of international cyber exercises, such as Locked Shield, Cyber Coalition, or CMX. And then we also have to share our best practices with our partners on both bilateral as well as multilateral levels. And finally, when I go back to those 4 pieces of the puzzle, we have to realize one thing. Cyber is, among other things, also the channel for distribution of content-related malicious activities such as information operations. This could be countered through enhancement of strategic communication. We believe that the crucial role in countering the content-related activities lies with intelligence agencies of every state. So to conclude, in order to create a resilient and safe cyberspace, we need to build a strongly interconnected system of all the 4 mentioned elements. But what is even more important is their close mutual collaboration, because only that can ensure that the system will work efficiently. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. I'm Marco Krempel from the German MOD, and I'm an advisor to the Chief Information Security Officer of the German Federal Armed Forces. Thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this roundtable session. And I also would like to point out some ideas, some statements about cybersecurity from a national perspective. Today actually is, or might be, a quite interesting day, not just being here at the NIAS. Currently, there's a workshop ongoing in Berlin where the Ministry of Defense is discussing cybersecurity with a lot of cyber security experts. Of course, not all of them, because some are here as well. This is a workshop where we're going to review our so-called white book. It's a very high strategic policy about security, national security, and within the white book, the cybersecurity will have, for the first time, I think, a large part where also the tasks, the organization, and training for the German Armed Forces might be defined. And therefore, as I said, it's quite an important day today, and there might be some changes after this workshop. So the involvement of the German Armed Forces might change. So I don't know what the Minister of Defense will announce today. So unfortunately, I cannot look into the crystal ball. But as I said, there could be a larger involvement of the German Armed Forces within the cybersecurity area in Germany. So today it's more or less the responsibility of the Ministry of the Interior to take care about the security, the cybersecurity in Germany. What are the priorities we from a military side see for cybersecurity for the armed forces? So first of all, I think, and we heard it in some of the sessions during the last 2 days, I think what we should do is improve the cyber situational awareness. And I don't just mean the technical part, it also means we should know what are the threats outside there, what are the threats within. And we should also know better what our own networks are, how they work, what are the assets, what are the services running, what are our vulnerabilities within the networks. And therefore, we have to monitor, we have to train our staff to make them aware how they can contribute to protect our systems. Secondly, I think we should also try to increase the effectiveness and the utilization of people, process, and technology. So training is key, as we heard from the colleague from the Czech Republic as well. So if you don't train our personnel the right way and focus them on their job, then I think we won't be successful. We have to look into the organization, to optimize the organization, to better use the skill set of our personnel, to improve the processes, maybe review them. Not every process might be as good as it was 2 years ago. So review them, put new ones in place, and maybe define new processes. And the third one, improve collaboration, and I think this is following the theme of the NIAS this year, innovation and collaboration. Those two things belong together. And this comes with information exchange, and it's always quite challenging, also from my experience, exchanging information. So there might be some good ideas, setting up SOPs and so on, but it needs to be somehow, it needs to fit in the daily business, let's say. So, and thankfully, initiated by Belgium and supported by NCERC, the MISP, the malware information sharing platform, was set up. I personally think this is a really good solution where we can really benefit from collaboration. And this is, from my perspective, a real collaboration on the technical level, of course. And it's being used very much. And I think we need more of this kind of collaboration tools. And of course, innovation. Innovation is usually, or doesn't usually come from within the organization. Of course, there's also some idea of innovation, how we can improve the organization, but this has to come together with innovation from outside the organization, from industry, from academia, and I think this is what will bring us forward. And last but not least, capability and capacity building. Nowadays, I think also based on the demography change, so a lot of organizations lacking in skilled personnel. So we have to somehow to generate the right personnel we need, and maybe we have to use close collaboration with academia, industry to insource capabilities, capacities, or maybe outsource capabilities and capacities. Yes, so I personally think we really have a need to focus on threats from within, and therefore the three main bullets I made, I think, has shown this is the right way how we can improve cybersecurity in the nations. And yes, thank you very much.
Does it work? Good morning. I'm Artūras Litvaitis from Lithuanian MOD. I'm head of Cyber Security Division and Cyber Security and Information Technology Department in our MOD. So Lithuanian Parliament has adopted cyber security law in December of last year. So since the January 1st of this year, we started to implement new cyber security system in our country. And in accordance with this law, Lithuanian Minister of National Defense has been made in charge of overall national cybersecurity policy. So we have quite a demanding and challenging, but at the same time quite interesting task to orchestrate all the cybersecurity events orchestrate all cybersecurity policy in our country. So now this year we have quite tough time because we have adoption of cybersecurity law is not all. So we have to prepare and submit to our cabinet a lot of other legal documents which will further specify how our cybersecurity system will work, and everything lies on our shoulders. Of course, we are not alone. We're working closely with other governmental institutions. We also working closely with some potential critical infrastructure owners in order to make those legal acts to be good enough and executable as well. So, for instance, my ministry is responsible for preparation and submission of a national cyber incident management plan. Ministry of Interior, they are responsible for crafting methodology for selection of critical informational infrastructure. And after that, when they submit methodology to our cabinet and it gets approved, then they will be again responsible for selection of critical information infrastructure. Because nowadays, until it is not done, other laws other than cybersecurity laws are defining critical infrastructure. So that's about our this year main challenges. But I wanted to touch upon a little bit different thing about human dimension, and that's more my personal opinion. But I see two main challenges in front of us, not only this year but also in the future. First of all is to get everyone in our enterprises on board with cybersecurity, to feel everyone responsible that they are part of a big system, big security system, and their actions or no actions will be really important how enterprise is secure. And we can start with our top managers, with our political masters. We have to make them aware about issues in this domain, what cybersecurity is, what is not. They have to be aware how to act as users, because normally VIPs, they don't like to much obey normal rules of behavior, because they demand always to have some more rights, and we have to again teach them. We have to explain them that they are users, and their maybe too high demands may breach our securities. And again, they have to be aware very well in order to provide directions and guidance for the rest of enterprise. Turning to users, again, they have to be very well aware what they can do and what is not recommended to do, and what is really dangerous to do. But you know, simple training, I don't think can solve the problem, or just giving them instructions, letting them read and sign, it's not solve the problem. We have to find some innovative ways, some attractive ways how to get them involved, how to get them interested, and how to how to say, maybe in easy way to train them, and in order not to do bad thing. Again, our technical staff, our engineers, our technicians, of course, every one of them, they want to realize their ambitions as a specialist, but they have to be again very well aware that what cyber attacks can do, not only from technical perspective to the enterprise, but they have to understand very well what are the collateral effects as well. I mean, informational effects and some even political effects. And that's one side. Another I would say, challenge in front of us is that our salaries are not competitive compared to private sector. And that's a big problem because we cannot find proper personnel and in necessary quality and necessary quantity. It's again brain drain to other nations, to other countries, but even inside Lithuania, it's young people, they better look for the job in private sector than in governmental sector. So again, we have to be innovative. We have to find ways how to, with the same in competitive salary, to attract and to invite them and work in our governmental system. So that's it probably for the moment. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tomasz Dąbrowski. I represent Poland, Ministry of National Defense. At the beginning, I would like to thank the organizers of the symposium for the opportunity to share with the allies the national perspective in the area of cybersecurity. My intention is to emphasize the substantial engagement of Poland in several initiatives aiming at raising the level of cyber defense. In Poland, cybersecurity is one of the strategic objectives, as stated in National Security Strategy issued in 2014. This year, in turn, the Cybersecurity Doctrine was issued as the executive document of, with respect to the strategy. This doctrine aims to create conditions for the strategic direction of efforts to build or enhance an integrated system of cybersecurity. The document determines the goals to achieve, to keep the cyberspace protected, including especially an appropriate level of security of the national critical ICT infrastructure. From our perspective, the necessary prerequisites for these goals to be achieved are unquestionably collaboration and innovation, that are the topics of the symposium and our discussion. I would like to indicate the areas that are, in our opinion, of paramount importance and of high priority in context of collaboration and innovation. And the first one, well, I will not discover any new, but it's crucial. It's information sharing. It's kind of foundation for the development of cybersecurity. We appreciate, support, and will support any development of any efficient information exchange platforms to share the information about threats, the sources, vulnerabilities, possible countermeasures, or in general the appropriate approach to deal with the threats. The second one, I would say, it's participation in joint cybersecurity activities, common projects, partnerships, or exercises. We believe that this is a way to build trust, to gain experience, and to test specific solutions. We feel it's an aspect of really vital importance. The next area that I would like to mention is stimulating the science and the industry to active efforts to build the solutions that will be adequate to the needs and effective. We see here a huge potential, and we are pleased with the continuous involvement of representatives of Polish industry in also in international projects. We appreciate their presence at NIAS for years, but we also believe that this engagement will be still visible and will grow. And another area I would like to mention is the continuous improvement of situational awareness and also common situational awareness through integration and harmonization of cybersecurity or cyberspace activities with other domains in order to equip the decision makers with the tools to efficiently cope with the threats of changing and increasingly complex nature, like asymmetric threats or hybrid warfare, where cyber attacks, very complicated and advanced cyber attacks, are the important part, but still a part of some bigger issue. In the areas mentioned, several initiatives are nowadays taken, and numerous investments are made in Poland. We realize that the effective collaboration and the innovative approach to cybersecurity is the sine qua non of the successful neutralization of the existing as well as primarily emerging threats. And we believe that our efforts will also, in broader perspective, contribute significantly to the collective defense in the allied environment. Thank you.
Thank you. I would also like to thank NIAS for organizing this panel and Dr. Edwards for chairing the panel. I will take this opportunity also to salute my colleagues from the panel and thank for the sharing of the national efforts and their initiatives. I would also say that I'm Lieutenant Colonel Paulo Nunes. I'm the Multinational Cyber Defense Education and Training Smart Defense Project project manager. Starting from the national initiatives and the national strategic view of cyberspace and cyber defense, Portugal approved in 2013 also a new national security and defense strategy, where cyberspace was identified as a top priority for the country. Has a lot of other countries, we started to build our own path on cyber defense, and recently we had the chance to see approved the national cybersecurity strategy. It was approved last April. We have also already a national cybersecurity center that reached the IOC late last year, 2014, and also a national cyber defense center located at the Armed Forces General Staff that assures the cyber defense of the country. And Portugal is also engaging with civil society, knowing that we cannot face global challenge with a sole actor or unilateral solution. So cooperation is key and mandatory to face the challenging environment of new threats and new security challenge. I believe we all share these concerns, as I've seen in my previous colleagues' input. But Portugal also highlights the fact that the human factors is a very important and key building block of cyber defense and cybersecurity. So Portugal has adopted the human factor as one of the top priorities for the country, and it tries to provide personnel the required cyber defense competencies and skills. And from 2017, as we have already received that information during the symposium, there will be a NATO CIS school that will be transferred from Latina to Lisbon. Being the host nation of the most technological developed and advanced NATO school, Portugal is also deeply engaged in contributing to the success of this NATO education and training facility. And not only by leading the infrastructure build-up of the project, but also by looking at complementing the already extensive curriculum, making it more even appealing and attractive to those that would like to enhance their own competencies and skills. To this end, Portugal took also the leadership of the multinational cyber defense education and training Smart Defense project, which will help also to fulfill current education and training gaps in NATO, nations, allies, and partner nations. By creating new courses at the NATO CIS school or by taking profit of the already existing courses which could be made available by nations and accredited by NATO, and cooperation with the EU, at least from the Portugal side, is enhanced because I would like to refer that Portugal recently assumed the role of cyber defense discipline leader for CSDP military in the EU. So we are also on a very good position to establish links between the two organizations and foster cooperation between NATO and EU. And recognizing that technological innovation and expertise from the private sector and academia are crucial in the cyber defense domain, we will also seek for involvement of industry, namely with the NATO cyber industry partnership. In this context, we also welcome this kind of events, and we are very thankful for the participation and the opportunity to share with you our national experience. To close or to end my remarks, I would just like to raise a challenge. We must cooperate, but mainly we should move from cooperation to collaboration, effective collaboration. And I think we are just in the turning point of that corner, and we really need to move forward and fast in this cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you for organizing and inviting the nations to express their views here. This is Colonel Namık Kaplan, Turkish Armed Forces Cyber Defense Command Plans and Projects Branch Head. I can summarize Turkish cyber efforts in two parts. The first part is the government cyber efforts, and the second part, the military cyber efforts. First of all, the Turkish government is taking the cyber issue very seriously. The cyber strategy document was released at the political level. And Transportation, Maritime and Telecommunication Ministry was tasked by the government for the cyber related issues. Cyber Security Board was established at the government level, and the CIS had the J6 of military is also part of that board. And National Cyber Incident Response Center was established at the government level, called USOM in Ankara, and also Cyber Defense Action Plan List regarding 2015-2017 time period has just been released. Almost all Turkish governmental institutions were tasked in that action plan. To summarize military level cyber efforts, Turkish Armed Forces Cyber Defense Command was established in 2011 in Ankara under J6 of Turkish General Staff. Turkish Armed Forces Cyber Defense Management Board was established also. Our Cyber Defense Operations Management Center, working 24/7 basis. We also conduct vulnerability and penetration tests in our center. We participate cyber exercises. We are preparing for cyber coalition now. We are also participating Lock Shields exercise from our center. We also conduct training activities. We are also working with NSERC in close relationship, and collaboration, cooperation is our main priority. we have a project similar to NSERC FOC, so it's just been rewarded. And thank you for the point, dark web, deep web is another area that we are also interested in. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and good morning to you all. I just want to say, first of all, thank you very much to Dr. Edwards for chairing this session, and to the GM, to Kun Gijsbers for the invitation to speak at NATO's flagship Cyber Security Symposium. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. It was a difficult sort of question for me to answer to start with, about where to start on the UK's national approach to cybersecurity, because all of our national security, cybersecurity objectives presuppose a hand-in-hand partnership and collaboration with industry and academia. But I was inspired yesterday by the NATO Industry Cyber Partnership panel that Kun Gijsbers chaired, and just wanted to draw on a few assumptions that came out of that, and to set out to you some UK perspectives on what they mooted as key challenges for international cybersecurity. So I would like to talk to you about information sharing. Chris Betts yesterday said to us that information sharing in cyber is far more important than in any other domain. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what the United Kingdom is doing in that regard. The panel also talked about velocity and the change in the cyber threat landscape, and the fact that we all have to run really, really fast to stand still. So I hope some of the illustrations that I set out to you this morning will perhaps address how the UK is looking at that challenge. I was also really inspired yesterday, and thank you, NCIA, from the Give Me 5 sessions that small and medium enterprises had been invited to attend. So I'd like to touch on UK support to small and medium enterprises, if that's okay. And if there's time, I'd also like to pick up what a number of my esteemed colleagues here on the stage with me have drawn attention to, and that is the UK's commitment to building capability, skills and knowledge in the cybersecurity domain. So let's start first with information sharing. The United Kingdom has a cybersecurity information sharing partnership that was established as part of the last cybersecurity strategy. When it started, it was a partnership of 100 entities. We now have 750 entities sharing information on cyber threats. That's a collaborative platform of industry, academia, and the UK government intelligence and security services. So there is, the easiest way to describe that to you, for those who don't know, is sort of like a Facebook for sharing information on cyber threats. That is supported by a fusion cell, which is comprised of government security service analysts and industry analysts, where they work together to provide an enhanced cyber threat picture. So cybersecurity information sharing platform has proven its worth, came to the fore with the Heartbleed incidents. Within real time, there were information IP shared between members that enabled appropriate action to be taken. So that has proven its worth. And that continues to be sort of a cornerstone of the UK's approach to information sharing on cybersecurity. Those of you who were here last year will have heard probably presentations from CERT UK, which is our national CERT, also set up from last year, which is now the primary focus for engagement with the international community in the UK in response to cyber incidents. And the cybersecurity information sharing platform sits within that unit. CERT UK has an international engagement function and reaches out to bilateral partners, and also to multilaterals like NATO. Since the last Information Assurance Symposium here in Mons, our Intelligence and Security Agency, my home department, GCHQ, has launched a project, a program to share classified information with communication service providers at scale and at pace to enable their customers to be protected. So I hope that that just illustrates a little bit about how we are addressing Samir Kapuria's challenge yesterday of sort of secrecy and information sharing at velocity to address the cyber threat. Move on very, very quickly to our support to small and medium enterprises. We have a cyber growth partnership in the United Kingdom where representatives from academia, government and industry work on behalf of the wider industry to support innovation and development, skills and research within the cyber security sector. There is a strand of work within the Cyber Growth Partnership called Cyber Connect, which is a government-funded initiative to support and promote cybersecurity startups and small businesses in the UK and to help them develop. And that work complements another strand of activity that we have in the United Kingdom, where we have 13 regional cybersecurity clusters that encourage research, innovation, and a joint approach to development of innovative ideas in the cybersecurity domain. And GCHQ also has tried to drive this strand of work forward by thinking about how it can declassify some intellectual property to support and boost high-tech startups in its projects. Finally, I'd just like to move on to UK's commitment to building people with the appropriate skills and knowledge base. We have an entire objective in our cybersecurity strategy devoted to this. And we have a whole of government approach which enables the cybersecurity pipeline to be addressed from age 11 right through to postgraduate and in-work placements. So GCHQ with our Department for Business Innovation and Skills and others provides learning materials for secondary schools. We have now 13 academic centres of excellence for cybersecurity. We have 2 centres for doctoral training, sponsored PhD studentships, 6 GCHQ certified master's courses, 3 research institutes. We also have certifications for cyber professionals in a number of roles and certified training schemes. What is new since we were last here speaking to you are a series of apprenticeships, summer schools, and we've extended our certified cyber professional scheme to the United States, to New Zealand, to Canada and Australia. We are also very committed to cybersecurity and challenge to be able to develop young talent. So we are also contributing to that in that space. I think I'd just like to close just by saying that you know, cybersecurity, it's very, very clear, and I think we're all similarly minded, is a team sport. There is no way that governments can do it on its own, and neither should they. An overwhelming sort of majority of networks are privately owned. Industry has a unique insight into the cybersecurity threat with its global reach, and all of these sort of factors underpinned the UK's promotion and continued support for NATO's engagement with industry through the NATO Industry Cyber Partnership. We are also very committed to the Portuguese-led multinational cyber defence education and training project and look forward to sharing our best practice for the benefit of NATO, for the wider alliance and for nations. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks to all the panel members and the nations for those insights. So from Belgium to the UK, we've heard their perspectives. What we'd like to do now is turn to any questions that we have from the audience, and I'll give a little preparatory comments as you collect your thoughts on your questions. I heard strength and strategy, focus on civil society, Cyber centers are important. Many of the nations have stood those up. Critical infrastructure is not forgotten as a national jewel. Capacity building, training, education, all those things are very important. Focus on the human dimension, people, and the challenges that people bring to the use of technology. We appreciate from an agency perspective the multinational information sharing platform being used as a collaboration tool. Not forgetting insourcing, outsourcing, so industry, we're with you. National policies are already written, codified, are being developed throughout, and exercises. You know, NATO has a mission, and so throughout those exercises, we're including cyber and practicing in those areas. And then information sharing also concluded, and by the UK, classified information being shared. I'm quite interested to hear how you do that myself. So with those thoughts, we'll take any questions from anyone in the audience, please. A very quiet audience, or I can't see. There we go.
Koen Gijsbers, you know, I heard you know, very good stories of what's going on in the nations. And of course you have highlighted the things that are going well. My question is, you know, what are the areas where we can help you as NATO to do better in spots where you think you can improve further?
Okay, and so who would like to take that first? UK?
Thanks very much for that question, Koen. Where could NATO help us? I think NATO has, we heard yesterday from our industry representatives, that NATO has unique insight to threats that we all share, that we all face. So further information sharing and collaboration is a necessity, that goes without saying. I would also say that further engagement, further intensification, further implementation of what was agreed at Wales, including funding and further substantive implementation of the NATO Industry Cyber Partnership, is something that I think is critical. We all do need to work together. We can't work as stovepipe nations. I think also I would say that the business cycle for cyber is faster than for any other domain. So we really do need to think about, as an organization and as we are adapting NATO's cyber defense posture, whether our current processes are fit for purpose or not. I won't express my view. I think it's probably blatantly obvious. But we need to have the agility and the flexibility as a collective alliance to be able to address what is a very, very serious, pervasive, evolving, complex and sophisticated threat landscape. Thanks.
Okay. Would Germany or Portugal have a view?
I would like also to take the question of the general manager of the NCIA, and I do think that NATO should work as a hub, building a path that makes more agile the relationships between nations and with nations with core values that NATO just projects, and at the security level, the challenge of facing the pace of a growing threat, it's very demanding, not only from infrastructural aspects, but also from the human factor. And I do think that although we have to be agile in closing the gap between industry and the capabilities that have to be delivered to our men that are on the field in operations, we need to be more human agile, because this is a knowledge-based capability, And knowledge is the driving factor to face the challenge. Another thought that I would like to share with you is also the national extension of this compromised solution. We need to look to nations and see that nations are probably the building blocks of NATO cybersecurity and cyber defense. And NATO sometimes focuses too much at the NATO enterprise when thinks about capability building initiatives. I'm just feeling that from the side of the multinational cyber defense education and training project, because as you know, it's not a NATO-centered effort. It's mainly based on a voluntary basis of nations that get together and have a same and common idea and try to pursue that idea, of course, in NATO's benefit and having NATO in mind as a cooperation framework. But nations sometimes need support also from NATO to build their own cyber defense capabilities. If I may so, I would like also to raise this challenge and put this on the table to be in our minds in future initiatives.
Okay, any other views? Okay, Belgium?
Thank you for this question. First, I have to apologize to the 4 or 5 people in the room that don't actually know me. I'm Johan Schrooyen, civilian at Belgian Defense, and I'm the permanent representative to NATO C3 board and to the Cyber Defense Committee as well. I have to thank the General Manager for this question. I believe there are interesting things going on. Julie also already mentioned the NATO Industry Cyber Partnership, where we have kind of a lookout towards industry. And the Innovation Hub that's located in The Hague, I believe, is a very interesting initiative. But if we go farther south and we end up here in Mons, deep down in a bunker, there's an operations center where all NATO's cyber events are monitored. And I wonder whether the information from The Hague reaches this bunker. It's kind of a Faraday cage, I believe. So there may be an opportunity for the people that actually operate to get in touch with the people from the innovation side in order to be a bit more aware of what's happening and how things can improve. And that's not challenging, it just needs to be done in a way. And I believe that may be a great improvement towards innovation from NATO point of view. We haven't been doing that enough lately. My 5 cents.
Okay, thank you very much. One final call. Questions?
Hi, as a manager of technicians, my question is based on something that you've all touched upon. You've all mentioned that personnel are key and the training and retention of these is quite a hard topic at the minute. What is being done to make us within the military and civil service competitive so that we don't lose people to industry? Thank you.
So what's being done to take care of our personnel, I guess military and civilian, so we don't lose them to industry? I think a couple of you spoke to the importance of having education and training programs and building the skills within our people. There's 2 areas to think of that. In one area, it makes them attractive to industry. In another area, it makes them effective in performing their job in whatever organization they're in. But to your question, what's being done to retain them, I think lies in the answer of the training that's being provided with the hopes that those people see that perhaps they make a difference in the assignment that they have that would be different than perhaps that they would be doing in industry, would be my perspective on that. financial incentives in terms of carrots and things of that nature are done in different organizations in different ways. And of course, motivation to people come in different ways. And then I would finally say, it's not a bad thing that, we move from, civilian life, military life into the civilian sector. And some people, almost my age, even come back the other way as they find their careers. Okay. Any perspectives from the panel? I tried to encapsulate your thoughts there. Okay, if no other questions, let's conclude where we began. My thanks dearly to the nations for taking the time with all that's going on in the world to come to NIAS and participate in the panel. I think this is something that we can build upon. I tried to provide a thought in the beginning, that challenge of a view from within, but the view from within is the one that's been provided by the nations, and I think that's where we need to pay more attention as we continue our NATO industry cyber partnership. Let's add to that we also have a focus from within, and that's hearing the voice of the nations. We often say, we're as strong as our weakest link. We're strong as we all come together, and that gives us the benefit. Thanks, and if you all could all please join me in a round of applause for the panel.